Welcome to this next episode of YouTube, where we see the influence of snowfall on a wolf exhibit. And we've had a few small storms with maybe 1 to 2 inches. And what it does, it really does seem to stimulate the wolves to be a little bit more active. And you're seeing Denali with a tail wag here up in the woods and responding a little bit to Aiden, who's showing some signs of maybe a little bit of a charge towards him, but it's again pretty calm. This time of the year it's starting to really calm down and things are pretty quiet and pretty reserved around here. But it's like I say, the snowfall has got a lot of scents in it. It's fresh, it's fun to do a face wipe or to roll in, and it gives them an opportunity to interact with each other in a little more social setting. So it's environmental conditions can really influence wolves' behavior. So as you can see, Denali again coming up to greet the camera operator, and as Aiden's going over to one of the other wolf care staff. But the activities are again engaged and very active. The two of them are both carrying themselves in what we call a T2 tail, so a pretty comfortable, relaxed posture. And then Aiden comes down to greet the camera operator as well. One thing you'll notice on Aiden's nose, as we've said before, he's got a little pigmentation loss. We have a medical exam, a complete medical exam scheduled for next week, and we'll be able to hopefully get a little bit more diagnostic on that. Doesn't affect him one bit. He is a very, what I consider to be in really good condition this winter. The fresh snow also does give him ice balls, and you're seeing Aiden here stopping to chew at the bottom of his foot and get those ice balls off. Whereas Grizzer willingly allows us to take him off his feet, Aiden and Denali are a little bit more reluctant for us to remove him. And it's just really the warm conditions with the snowfall. Temperatures are in 20s and upper 30s during the day, and that makes for real wet snow and just a slight inconvenience. The benefit of having fresh snow for them to romp in is much greater. The other thing that I wanted to show you from the surveillance cam was what is the process of the feeding program here. The center has a feeding program every Saturday night, generally 7 o'clock in the winter or 7:30 in the summer, where the wolf care staff lock off the wolves into the adjacent holding area, and then they bring in with a wheelbarrow food. Tonight's feeding here has a beaver as well as a small deer carcass for Aiden and Denali. And again, they're fed once a week. And that's to allow them to feast and famine and to cache food that is extra, so that stimulates a lot more behaviors than just having a small meal every day. And so they are really designed to gorge and feed pretty large quantities. So what happens is Aiden and Denali get released, and you can see that some of the flashes at the window. People are right at the window observing. We have enclosure lights that illuminate the front of the exhibit, and not always that stimulating. Denali's going to come over on the far right side of the screen and do a raised leg urination mark. That's the problem about wolves. Even though we feed once a week, people think they'd be ravenous, but they're not. They cache and they eat throughout the week, so they have plenty of food resources, and on these warm days they're just not burning the calories like they would. And unfortunately for the participants, we'll proceed to pick up that deer and drag it over towards the area where Grizzer is located. Don't think that has anything to do with Grizzer. That may just be a response to the attention in front of the window. Shadow was a little reluctant to eat with large crowds and flashes as well, so maybe something that is more Aiden's personality. But he does take the deer and bring it and drags it across the exhibit and out of view. Pretty small deer, actually. It was probably only about 90 pounds. And then Grizzer, he again will be pretty active when he's being filmed. Usually the wolf care in there, so he's moving around and kind of checking things out. One of the other things that we do is we do feed, give him some pig's ears. It's kind of a little stimulus midweek treat, and Grizzer loves his pig's ears, so he will chew them, lay with them between his feet and kind of chew on them. And actually, not only is this good stimulus for him and he likes him, but it's a good opportunity for us to watch how he feeds and see if there's any kind of issues. We are seeing a decaying tooth on Grizzer. One of his premolars is losing some dentition, and he's also scheduled for a medical exam next week, so we'll be able to take a look at that. But clearly he has no problems chewing. This may just be a age condition. Not really sure what's going on. The veterinarians will take a closer look at it when they have him under immobilization, but it certainly doesn't bother him. He has no problem chewing those. And I wanted to also mention that, like I said, even though Grizzer is fed as well on Wednesdays and Sundays, he does carry things around midweek, and that was actually a Thursday shot there, so food left over. And over in retirement, we see Shadow doing a face wipe. Oftentimes a face wipe comes after they've done a snowplow, kind of rolling in the snow with their face. But Malik and Shadow are probably happy to hear that the sled dogs have now left for the winter, so we should see a little more calmer behavior between those two individuals. And a lot of curious kind of investigative behavior this past week. Again, like I said, the sled dogs moved off on Wednesday, so there was some noise on Wednesday while they were being loaded up. And then we had some large groups, and large groups mean people in the parking lot and kids and buses and lots of noise. So that's been keeping them up quite a bit. We've been watching the surveillance camera and seeing that they are not sleeping through the night. They've had several different things that stimulated them in the middle of the night, and we'll be kind of checking on that. It should decline after the sled dogs have been moved off. We should see less middle of the night activity, but for the most part, again, very healthy, going on 12. We're very pleased with how each one of them has advanced here in retirement. 12 is old for wolves, and certainly wolves in the wild rarely make it this long. Wolves in captivity may typically start to decline around this age, but as you heard before, they have some good genetics, so we're thinking they're going to do pretty well. The other thing that we know is keeping them alert is ravens, and it is the time of the year where the ravens are starting to congregate kind of before the nesting season, taking advantage of these extra scraps that are around because the wolves are warm, and it's not that they don't need the resources as much, so they tend to have a lot of leftovers during the week, so that brings in a lot of ravens. And ravens are one of those things that usually wolves and ravens are pretty symbiotic and they get along pretty well, but I think when you're in captivity and you've got something constantly bugging you, making noise, flying at you, you're going to be more likely to kind of chase them off, and that's typical. And then one thing we know about ravens, when there's one, there's always more, and it's almost like a kind of a dissension of the entire social group of ravens comes in and starts perching and kind of surrounding. That's Malik on the den there. And if one makes you nervous, 5 of them behind you and around you and over your heads can also stimulate you to kind of move along. And so we see ravens, and ravens are very social. A lot of gregarious behavior, certainly a lot of communication that goes on amongst the ravens themselves and making a lot of noise. And so that is something that I would say pretty much early in the week, because we feed on Saturday night, that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday presence of ravens is pretty strong. And so, like you say, they kind of fly around. The wolves are not too bothered by them, but eventually when you get 3 or 4, Malik's going to get up and go retreat to the back of the enclosure, which is a little bit more wooded and a little less raven traffic. The other thing that we noted this week, again, a little bit of that chin resting, and Shadow does it so well. We thought we'd take a little bit of a close-up view. Again, a chin rest is a dominant posture, just kind of asserting your position without any real overt physical contact, and just pushing that chin right on Malik's back. And you can see here the different ear postures. Shadow has ears pricked forward. Malik's ears were a little bit to the side and back, and that, like I say, generally indicates that Malik's a little intimidated by this kind of posturing. So that was stimulated by wolf care staff in the enclosure. Shadow and Malik do get a little possessive of the staff. Usually Shadow is the one who guards the wolf care staff, and then kind of gets a little dominant when Malik approaches. The other thing we've observed is that this isn't just wolf care staff stimulated. We did see this in the surveillance cameras, and Malik comes up and does a little bit of a push towards Shadow. Shadow responds with a little bit of a chin rest, and then they proceed to both leave the den and get a little excited. They do the whirl chase behavior, so it's not just occurring when we're doing wolf care. And we end this clip with Oscar in a pack howling response and getting a little better with his howling. So I'll let you listen to that as we finish. So that's it for this week's YouTube, and Oscar's going to finish with the fresh snow roll. And sorry about my voice, I'm a little under the weather today, but thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.